So, and an important topic, hate. How do I get rid of hate? I work energetically. And the goal of this video is for you to be free of hate by the end of it. Or at least to think about whether it's right. That would already be quite a lot. No. No. Yes. So everyone is warmly invited to watch this video. As I said, it happens energetically. You don't need to do anything. You can sit back and relax. The video is infinitely effective. I do everything, you do nothing, you just listen to it. I am often asked, do I have to watch it all the time? Of course not. You can also just listen to it. Put it somewhere and let it play. That's enough if you've watched it once. It's about the message, the energy of the message. So I warmly invite everyone who are involved with it. And first we remove this dark energy from them. That's what I start with. Dark energy causes, Agoros, I like to say, the dark energy makes one more easily irritated, quicker to anger, quicker to rage. And it's not necessarily a part of us. I believe that it flows into us externally. And when we live on this energy, we are not the person we could be if we were free. That's why I always like to remove it. And especially on the topic of hate, it makes particular sense. So with hate, I would distinguish between two things. The first would be hate. I had an experience. I had an accident, was severely injured as a result, am still impaired today, and hate this person. Or I have had experiences where my parents mistreated or abused me, or someone else mistreated, abused me, and I hate this person. So personal experiences, painful. Physical, psychological. Experiences that can trigger hate. Someone has robbed, cheated, lied to me. I always think of those good scammer boys who are lurking around the internet. There are probably thousands of them who usually pose as doctors or soldiers from the USA. That's the classic form, good looking and wanting to do a good deed and then lure the women in. And once you've donated, they disappear without a trace. Well, one could develop hate from that, or under certain circumstances, one does develop hate. Or you take it as a learning experience. So let's take this. The other version is, I have advantages and therefore hate someone. That would be advantages over blacks, yellows, greens, whites, redheads. Tall, short people. People with disabilities. Wherever you find wherever this hate comes from, it is usually introduced in some form. Brought in. There is this nice saying, and there's another one which I want to read out again if I still can. The saying is divide and conquer. And in the program, a lot is also attempted externally to sow discord by pitting groups against each other and say, okay, these are the bad ones and you are the good ones, or vice versa. So let's just start now. Let's take this hate completely. First, this group that has had a bad experience. Let's remove this hate from the system. I now introduce inner peace and calmness. Yes. Life is sometimes not a bed of roses. That means we experience things. And sometimes they are things that really push us to the limit where one is physically strongly affected or severely impaired or loses all assets or faces death or something else. One suffers. And then, under certain circumstances, such a hate forms an uncontrolled rage that is directed against someone. But what good does it do? You can certainly have it, and it is certainly justified. But it has no meaningful end, because unless I want to kill him which one definitely should not do, because then you end up in prison and you are the biggest sufferer. So if I direct the anger at myself in the end, it doesn't find the recipient. It only finds the recipient, and that's us. And then we come to this law of play. Everything we send out comes back to us, even if we were the victims, of course. So if we send out hate because we have been harmed in some way, then in the end it will affect us. So maintaining this hate, I now take that from the system of everyone in inner peace. I play into serenity. We now see a good example in current events there. Israel, Palestinians, West Bank, and so on. This is a pent-up hatred which then manifests in action that will promote further hatred. That's just how it must be said. So, if I were attacked now and defended myself, I think highly of it, I must admit. But in a reasonable measure. If I then overdo it, it provokes further exaggeration. So in general, I'm a friend of not necessarily letting things slide. I must simply say here, because then, you see, there is a victim role. That means you provoke the other to keep doing it. They say he just puts up with it, and there are constantly people who ruthlessly exploit this. So a certain reaction is needed, but this hatred, to retaliate, or lash out in double, or triple measure, I take that out of the system, from everyone now. And even in a story of anger or wrathful hatred, to also keep it in check and say, okay, that's enough now. With that, it feels justly balanced for me. I will apply this to everyone again now. Hatred is definitely a negative feeling, and it does something to you. It destroys you internally. Through intense hatred, I can inflict great physical and psychological harm on myself. If I do it uncontrollably. So destroying oneself, I take the hatred out of the system again. I instill inner peace and serenity. We are everything. One must keep saying, we are the core parts of life. We are the transmitter, and life is our projection screen. Everything we send out, we see again in large aspects. And if we send out negative things come back. So if I endlessly send hate, I harvest endless hate. That is what I receive. So to break this cycle, the ability, this ability to recognize this connection, I am now instilling in everyone. And the inability to break this cycle, I am removing from everyone again. Again, the abilities to break the cycle and eventually let reason prevail, I am instilling that. Yes, if I have now had a strong negative experience, abuse as an example, or physical injuries, how deal with that? If the system ensures justice, then justice has been served. Whether it was enough or not, in the end one must accept it. As hard as it is to experience it over and over again, to go through it, that is only getting caught up in this story. So this inability to let go of the situation, I take that out for everyone again, and the ability to eventually say, okay, it has been enough, the perpetrator has been punished, or the perpetrator has been found and punished. The world has received its justice, or the perpetrator has not been found, but it is so. We are in a world of instant karma. In most cases, fate catches up with them in another way. And as it is beautifully said, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. So leaving vengeance to the divine, there is an energetic balance. This brings me to an important point. It is called, sometimes things happen because we're perpetrators in a past life. So why we robbed or abused or killed someone in a past life or whatever. And then we experience the same story again in this life then as a victim. And it is, of course, difficult to recognize that we were once perpetrators. Our inability to acknowledge that we were also once perpetrators in this regard, the inability to recognize this, I will remove. And the ability, at least the possibility to consider that perhaps this was the revenge from a past life. That's why we now have become so unexpectedly and without reason become victims. But I want to eliminate the desire to strike him down. I will now remove that from the system again and reflect on it once more. Either we were also once perpetrators ourselves, or it is justice to leave it to the heavens, or justice to leave it to earthly processes, legal proceedings, police, and so on. I will now apply this to everyone again. If I cannot change it, then it makes no sense to always be in this frequency of hatred if I can no longer affect anything there. Then I am the victim. Then I am the victim myself. And there it is, this beautiful saying, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to distinguish one from the other. Now I have written it down so that I can say it completely. Theologian Reinhold Niebuhr, it is attributed to him. Let him be given the honor if one is already reciting the sentence. So I think it's important when I cannot change things. And then I also come to the second part. Then I can save my energy. Then I can, they save the energy. Many people fight against windmills, against things they can't change anyway, and waste their energy and use their energy wrongly. The use of energy to create something new, that's the better idea. So fighting against the widows, I'd take that out of the system for everyone, or to have hatred against something, I take that out as well. And I also remove the anger and the wrath on occasion and the inner peace, inner calmness, joy. I introduce it. Is also a nice saying. I believe it's from Cicero, divide and conquer. And that is often used in politics or elsewhere. Also applied in the social life of known relatives, or however, by using artificial differences that lead to an argument. I know a nice caricature that always comes to mind. The masses all are protesting against the king, and the advisor stands there with torches and pitchforks. And the king's advisor says, very simple, we can solve this. Very simply, agitation with the forks, with the pitchforks. Incite those with the torches against the pitchfork people, the ones with the torches, the ones stirring up trouble against the pitchfork people. That is how it is ultimately done. That is how politics is done. That is how an opponent built on the The one who is then the victim there, or the one where the anger can be directed, where the anger should go, or also a scapegoat identified for things that perhaps the politics itself has caused. I don't want to get too political here now. That's not the purpose of this exercise here. Okay, but do you understand how that works? And you have to take a look at that. Have I become a victim of these stories? So, the hatred against other ethnic characteristics of people I will set aside for now. And to know that we are all the same, whether we are from whatever origin we may come from, in the end, we are all the same. Feel hatred to anyone, then ultimately I feel hatred towards myself. And to dissolve this cycle, to dissolve this hatred against myself, I will now set aside this hatred and feel peace, to have peace. That doesn't mean one should be naive. I also mentioned earlier, I do believe in not letting things slide or retaliating in equal measure. If it is possible. If it is not possible, then I can save my strength and effort. Then justice will be served, justice. But if nothing has happened to me, no one has wronged me, or I'm just being talked into it. That's how wars start. They are to blame, they are the guilty ones, that's why we have to fight them. Or we are the owners of wisdom. We must bring democracy to the world and show them how it's done, so we finally know how good democracy works. This is how you can bring stress into the world and lecture others. And in the end, it leads to disputes. So leaving others as they are, that's a really big deal. So these possibilities of interference, let people be as they are. I believe that's wiser. So let's get back to the story of hate. So generational hatred, it has always harmed us. I'll take that out of the system again. Now out. And stories are made out of it. I mean, the persecution of Jews in the Second World War, it is actually also just based on hatred. The rich Jews, the rich merchants. And even if they weren't, they might have been just simple merchants who, through something, came to a little something. And this professional group was then branded. And then this hatred spread to the people, which was totally senseless and not deserved at all. And in the end, hundreds of thousands of people were murdered. Creepy. So this hatred towards certain groups, I'll take that out of the system of all networks again. And not let inner peace be divided, not let oneself be incited, maintain equanimity and say, this is about my fellow human being. This is my fellow human being. No matter where they come from. Everything else is just anecdotes that someone has, whether someone has a different religion or a different skin color. Those are just anecdotes. That is unimportant. Well, how far along are we now? Okay. Feels pretty good. Yes, to develop such hatred because one believes to have been disadvantaged by something, by someone. I will remove that from everyone's system again. To develop the ambition, or to say, okay, I will take action. I will take my life, my destiny into my own hands and try to make the best of it. I will play that again now. Yes. The possibility to also accept that it was just a stupid accident, like in a car accident or any other things. That this stupid accident, which in the broadest sense is not a stupid accident, but simply happens to be a dull coincidence. To leave it as it is and say, okay, it was just bad luck that I was there at that moment, standing there, or that's why fate caught up with me there. And it doesn't help me if I feel hatred because of it now. The anger towards people, I take that. Again, I take out the anger of hatred again. In inner peace, serenity, always seeing what changes, what can I change? And if I can't change anything, then I can also refrain from fighting that battle. And then I can let go and focus on things that are fruitful. I remove this energy for hatred from their system, and to use the energy for that, to do sensible things, to create something, to build something, to take that momentum and say, okay, that was unjust, that wasn't good, but I use this momentum, this motivation to create something new, something better. I am now implementing that for you. The idea of not being able to let go, I take that out again. And the idea of completely letting go, I will now play that in. To love all people equally. I love all people. I love all people. I love all people because you are a reflection of me. You are a part of me. You are a good part and also a bad part of me, or a very bad part, or a very, very good part. But they give a good cross-section of myself. I will now play that in for you again. Yes, I think we've achieved a little something. Good. So, it is important to recognize that hatred doesn't actually get you anywhere, but rather that this hatred is a negative seed that, if constantly nurtured, leads to negative consequences for you, not to the negative consequences that might be the cause, or the supposed cause, but rather to use the energy you get from it, this adrenaline rush, to change things positively, to shape the world as you can, to the extent that you can exert influence. Stop fighting battles against windmills, but be constructive. Sometimes the small things are the valuable things. And to do that, I wish for you to bring small positive things or big positive things into the world. And then at the end of your life will have given meaning for all people. We live as a collective. And as a collective, do we need each other and the support of everyone, and not the opposite of that. Take care. My name is Cornelius von Lessen, energetic healer. See you then.